program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
We'll call the meeting to order. Good evening to the February 5th Planning Commission meeting. If you are planning to speak tonight, there are yellow pieces of paper at the back of the room. Please fill one out and hand it to Ned on your way when you come forward. When you get to the microphone, please introduce yourself with your name and your address. If you come up to speak tonight, please make sure that the comments you are making on the topic are fresh and new, not a repetition of what other people have said. And with that, we'll call our first item on the agenda, which is a public hearing for recommendation, a rezoning of C2 to CBDP, 601 Water Street and 116 6th Avenue.
This is the property at the corner of Water and 6. There's commercial zoning to the north and east, residential to the south and to the west. This is an aerial photo of the site. There's two existing buildings on the property. There is a narrative that was provided by applicant explaining the request. The comprehensive plan and Water Street District Plan both identify the size being appropriate for commercial development. The narrative that was provided by applicant notes there's compliance issues with the current C2 zoning of the property. Again, there's two existing buildings on the property. They're non-conforming due to setback. The proposal would be to remove the south building and then to replace it with an addition on the north building. The addition will actually create a greater setback from the alley, which is where vehicles enter the business, and a greater setback along the west property line, which is abutting a residential home. Again, the purpose of the rezoning is to basically bring the structure into conformance with setback requirements. Right now, they can't meet setback requirements of a C2 district. There's a non-conforming sign that's located here that would be removed as part of the project. They replace it with a screening fence along the west property line. There's an existing pole sign that's a non-conforming, and that would become conformance with the proposed rezoning. Final site plans and building elevations would be reviewed by Plan Commission once they are ready for submittal of those items. We are recommending approval of the rezoning.
Are there any questions for Daryl? I don't see any, thank you. Is the applicant here?
I'm Gregory Granlund, 1013 Barland Street, and representing the architects, Lean and Peterson Architects. We've worked on several attempts to alter these buildings and remodel to combine the two businesses under one continuous roof, and we just run into a few separate issues. One that was easy to overcome was they were separate lots and were not allowed to have even a door between two parcels. The lots can be combined, but then you run into issues of floor heights and some structural issues in the south building where once you start to nibble away at one wall, you find there's very little left when you get to the other side. So with the changes of height within the two buildings and the structural issues, and once you start to remodel 50% of a building, you need to remake the toilet rooms accessible. They'd like to have a sense that they can actually accomplish this on the space available before we go through all the design steps to actually prove that the rest of the parts fit. So this is an attempt to clear the air or clear the issues that are zoning and site related.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any, but I'll ask one. What are the I can't talk tonight. What are the dimensions of the existing building on the south right now?
Roughly 40 by 100, 120.
Okay, and what would the dimensions be of the addition that you would build on the existing building?
I believe it's a little closer to 30 by 120.
Okay,
Essentially, the building right now goes right up to the edge of the alley.
okay,
And of course, that means that to swing wide enough to enter, vehicles actually have to cross the parcel that's on the other side of the alley for a few inches to get momentum.
and this would eliminate that
And this would
problem?
allow them to make the turn within the distance of the alley itself and the bit of the parcel they'd have to cross.
Okay,
So it would take them off the neighbor's parcel.
very good. Are there any other questions for the applicant? I don't see any, thank you. This is a public hearing, so we'll open it up if anyone would like to speak.
Hi, my name is Lauren Learman of 719 4th Avenue. I am the president of the Randall Park Neighborhood Association, and I just wanted to voice our approval of this. We think that it should go forward.
Thank you. Well, before you leave, let's make sure there aren't any questions. Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on our agenda is a public hearing for recommendation, a rezoning from R1A to R1P and R2P Jeffers Road, a preliminary plat for Camden Place.
This property is located off of Jeffers Road, north of the North Crossing, and this is the Northwest Community Park. There is commercial zoning to the north. The park is to the east. There's vacant land to the south and some single-family homes and vacant land to the west. The area in yellow is the area proposed for R1 zoning. The area in pink is the area proposed for R2 zoning. It's an aerial photo of the property, which is in yellow. This is a commercial greenhouse facility. This is Shorewood Heights subdivision. This is the community park, vacant land, and then small apartments to the south, some single-family homes and vacant land to the west. This is a layout of the street system for the project, with the street off of Jeffers Road going directly into the community park, a more indirect connection than through the site. We've cross-hatched the area that is proposed for R2 zoning, and then the area in white, and the two lots here, are proposed for R1 zoning. This is a substantial change from the previous project considered by the Plan Commission. This project now includes another property here. This property was not included with the original project. The property now includes a combination of R1 and R2 zoning. The street system has been changed so that there is not a direct route from the project out to Jeffers Road on the north portion of the property, a more indirect route with the main access to Jeffers Road directly into the park. And that hill that is on the property in this location is left undeveloped with this project. This is the preliminary plat for the project, showing the layout of structures on the property and then the proposed street names. We did receive a revised preliminary plat this morning. The only change is that Hobbs Street is renamed to Wayland Street. Other than that, the layout and lots are all the same. The project is 67 lots with 28 lots for single-family development, 39 lots for twin homes, although 2 of those lots, here and here, have existing single-family homes on them. The comprehensive plan identifies areas being appropriate for low-density residential development. The proposed R1 and R2P zoning and single-family and twin-home development is considered low-density residential development by definition in the comprehensive plan. Again, there's existing duplexes and a greenhouse facility to the north, a community park to the east, vacant land to the south, and single-family homes or vacant land to the west. And we do believe the rezoning request is consistent with our comprehensive plan and will be compatible with the surrounding land uses. The street layout is consistent with a master plan street layout that was reviewed by the Plan Commission a number of years ago. And this is that street system. Again, this is Jeffers Road and the community park. And many years ago, prior to Shorewood Heights being even developed, the idea was to bring a direct route off of Jeffers into the community park to provide connection into what would, at some future date, be Shorewood Heights, and to provide connection down to the existing multifamily development to the south. The project's also consistent with the master plan for the community park. This is the master plan for the community park. It also shows direct street access off of Jeffers Road into the site, the connectivity to the Shorewood Heights development to the north, and then connection at some date with the street systems to the south. We would also note that the location for sewer and water to be extended into this area for development comes off of the existing street to Shorewood Heights. We do believe the street system proposed for this project is consistent with the master plan for the area. We did attach a memo previously sent to City Council on street connectivity for this property when the last project was reviewed, and that is in your packet. Waterways and Parks Commission has recommended approval of this project with the condition that Daisy Lane, which is the main street access into the park, be of adequate width to accommodate a pathway. The preliminary plat does show areas in excess of 20% slope. There's also some small wetland areas here and here that have been discovered. Areas in excess of 20% slope are that hill. Those will need to be legally defined and labeled non-buildable on the final plat. Final site plans for the twin homes will be reviewed by staff prior to issuance of building permit. Our comprehensive plan does encourage a variety of design with those twin homes, and we would recommend a condition on this general development plan that requires a variety in duplex design. All these lots do meet setback requirements for R1 and 2 districts, other than one exception. If I can find it. The exception that they are requesting is on corner lots. Your normal setback would be 30-foot front yard and a 28-foot side yard, and that'll vary depending on which way you face your building. They're requesting a 30-foot front yard and a 25-foot front side yard. And as you can see, with 30s and 30s here, you'll end up with a 25-foot setback then along Daisy Lane going into the park as a way of providing additional room for a 10-foot wide bike path on the north side of the project. That's the only exception in setbacks that they are requesting. The outlots that they show on the final plat are essentially underneath the power line corridor, and they are for drainage. And they do indicate their utility easement requests. We did attach the city engineer's report. We received petitions in opposition to the project, which we handed out prior to your meeting. We are recommending approval of the rezoning, and we're recommending approval of the plat with conditions. The 25-foot side yard setback is allowed for this project as noted on the attached drawing, which I showed you. Provide adequate right-of-way for Daisy Lane to allow a pathway connection with the street from Jeffers Road to the Northwest Community Park as per city engineer design approval. That's the condition recommended by Waterways and Parks Commission. Legally define and label non-buildable areas in excess of 20% slopes and the wetlands. Provide that variation in design with the twin homes. Indicate utility easement requests in compliance with the recommendations in the city engineer's report. Those recommendations include a development agreement for street, trail, and utility construction, council dedication of the right-of-way through the Northwest Community Park to provide that connection with the existing right-of-way to the north. This needs to be dedicated by the city council as right-of-way. Calculations for the stormwater runoff in accordance with city code. Increasing Daisy Lane right-of-way to a 70-foot right-of-way, shown here is 66. Confirmation of the street names, which is normally done with the final plat with council review, and then again, the 20% slope standards. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Daryl? Commissioner Peterson?
The majority of the northern lots are the ones that are being proposed to go to R1, and the southern lots are R2.
Yes, all the lots shown here in white, plus these two down here, would be R1, and the remainder in crosshatch would be R2.
Okay.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Daryl, we recently approved a requirement for a cross-access and maintenance agreement for twin homes.
Yes.
Does that have to be mentioned here as a condition, or?
No, we would do that as part of the certified survey maps for these properties. What the developer is doing here is he's dividing each of these into what essentially are duplex lots. And then when he builds that structure on the property and knows exactly where that shared wall is, they then file a certified survey map to divide it into two lots and allow the sale as a twin home. And at that time, with the certified survey map, we'll require them to file that access easement agreement. It's an administrative thing we'll take care of with the certified survey maps.
Are there any other questions for Daryl? I don't see any right now, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good evening. Sean Bohan, 1105 Elm Avenue West, Menominee. I'm working with the developer. I'm the project engineer on this. A few things that Daryl had noted. The big change obviously is changing from an R2P for the entire development to an R1P and an R2P, a mixed use or mixed residential. We got about 40% of it that's going to end up being the single family. 60% of it as the twin homes. We did have a meeting with the neighborhood, set that up about a month and a half or maybe 2 months ago. I think there was maybe half a dozen or a dozen people that came, discussed different things. Most of it ended up dealing obviously with, with a zoning change. But we were, trying to make sure that we appease them by looking at, we had a street that basically came straight into the subdivision from Jeffers Road. So we did end up looking at reconfiguring the road alignment to make it kind of a little bit more of a nuisance type of thing to be able to drive into the subdivision. It's certainly not going to be any type of shortcut. So you see the product of a road that curves around, comes back into the subdivision in the northeast. And the other option, or the other things that we looked at was just, changing some of the stuff over to an R1. As mentioned, this area ends up having overhead power lines that end up being along the eastern property line. Beautiful park that's there, but you have the overhead lines, you end up having some commercial property to the north, also some duplex units and stuff that end up being to the northwest, and then you end up having multifamily that ends up being to the south. So we feel this is a good mixture, a good fit. We feel it's a good compromise, and we hope that we end up having your support.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue?
I'm a little nervous here. Anyway, what I like to say, I
Could you introduce yourself with
Bill
your...
LaRose, 4909 Jeffers Road.
Thank you.
What I like here is, I was taught in school, we the people, okay? Now, there was a vote, and not a vote, which you gave earlier, okay? And then the people here had signatures that they don't want it. So what does we the people mean? You know, if there's a majority that don't want it, why is this being jammed down our throats? I would just like to know this. I lived in this town, we've lived in this town, we got a wonderful neighborhood. The engineer here said it's right with a natural setup there. It's beautiful for kids, for a residential. I would like to go out into my backyard or back in the field there and listen to kids play. I don't want, you know, families and cars and all this. What I want is good, solid residential area. That's all we the people, okay? Do you understand that? You know what it means? Thank you very much.
You bet. Are there any comments for the speaker? Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hi, my name is Frank Garcia, and I wonder if they, just want to look at your map here a second. Can you show me where that Jeffers Road, I got one in the mail there, and I couldn't,
Jeffers Road is this road right there.
okay, now.
This is where the big hill is.
Did they show, you have that map that you sent out that showed both sides of Jeffers Road there? I'm on the opposite side of the, okay, now, Steffi,
Jeffers Road.
here we go, okay. Okay. As I look at this map on.
If you can put it under, if someone can help him get it so that the rest of us can see it too.
Here, but,
That's all right. That way they can see what you're pointing at.
oh, okay. Okay, as I look on Jeffers Road here, you see where there's Steffi Road right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's single-family homes. I own the next 3 parcels there, right butting up to Steffi Road on the same side of the road there. And you'll see 3 parcels there, kind of an L-shaped, a square, and then a rectangular parcel, which would be basically directly across from the proposed area here. I know a person can impede development, that's understandable, but it has been, the homes behind me and mine and across the road, they have been single-family homes, and I'd like to keep it single-family homes. It's, I guess that boils down to that, you know, from our perspective. Nothing against single-family homes, you know, but I just don't, not in favor of the twin homes. I'd like to see single-family homes in the area. I think the single-family homes, I think people are real concerned about keeping their property in good shape and nice the way we do. I think that might enhance, you know, keep an enhanced value of our property, having single-family development in an area rather than the twin homes, I guess they call it. And I just wanted to voice my opinion. I'd like to see it stay as single-family development in the area. I know just to the north, I guess they had a talk before that I wasn't in on, that people wanted the single-family, I guess they call it R1, is it? And that evidently they did make some change there, which was great. And I'd like to see the same thing on our end of the project. It could still be a real nice development with single-family homes. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Very good. Are there any questions for the speaker? Thank you for speaking.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hi, my name is Jeff Schreiner. I live at 5455 Benjamin Street. As already mentioned, there was a previous proposal for this plot, and the neighborhood of Shorewood Heights submitted a 84-signature petition vote expressing our desire not to have that go through. There was two primary reasons. One is it included all twin homes, and the second is we don't really want a second access road into Shorewood Heights. We discussed the changes of the new plan, which includes now the mixture of single and twin family homes and the proposed 14-foot wide emergency access rather than a full road. Our neighborhood acknowledges that the developer has made changes to try to address our concerns. However, our neighborhood really does not want any twin homes and does not want any access road. Today, our neighborhood emailed the City Planning Commission two new petitions. One is opposing the inclusion of twin homes, and the second is opposing an access road into the Shorewood Heights neighborhood. Each petition was signed by 90 residents from the Shorewood Heights neighborhood. Shorewood Heights has a total of 52 houses. While collecting signed signatures on the petitions, we touched base with 49 of the 52 homes. Of those, 3 homes were not home. They were out of state. Of the 49 homes we contacted, one did not want to sign it because they're building a new house and is moving out of the Shorewood Heights area. Residents in the remaining 48 homes signed both petitions. This represents 98% of the homes that we talked to signed the petitions, and a total of 92% of the total homes in the area that oppose this change. Please support our opposition by not approving this new development plan. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Commissioner Peterson.
Is it your belief with the second access that people use the second access to get into your neighborhood, or will they continue
Yes.
to use Shorewood Drive?
Yes, exactly. Right now, there's a single access and there's very minimal traffic, either pedestrian or vehicles that are not from our neighborhood. And if you see a car go by, we know who it is, and we think there'll be a lot of bicycle traffic and things of that nature, maybe people wanting to go through our neighborhood to get up to the ballparks, for example, because there's no other safe access until Jeffers Road gets upgraded.
So you believe the people from this new development are going to come through your
Yes, that is
your
our
neighborhood
concern,
as
yes.
opposed to going out to the convenient Jeffers Road? Do you see that as logical?
Well, depending on where they're going, or if they just want to go for a bike ride or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Thank you.
Yep.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hello, my name is Julie Newhouse, and I reside at 5302 Shorewood Heights Parkway. The home that I live in with my husband and I is this property right here, the very end piece of property. We object to the property being rezoned to allow for a multifamily development instead of single-family homes. My husband and I purchased our property 5 years ago, and at that time, we contacted the city very diligently, and we referenced city planning documents such as, I believe it was called, referenced the Parks and Waterways Plan. We did this before even purchasing the property that we built our current home on. By looking at the city planning documents, it confirmed if we should indeed purchase the property that we were looking at. And a driving factor in our purchase was knowledge that the single-family homes were around the Shorewood Heights neighborhood, as well as the community park. And also specifically looking at those city planning documents, that the road past our home may be used for future park access, but there was no sign of that road to be used to access a multifamily housing development. Last summer, you heard our neighborhood object to the zoning proposed through road. I believe that those objections came with many supporting reasons, and all those supporting reasons still remain intact today. I have not yet heard any reason or argument as to why the property should be used for multifamily instead of single-family. I don't believe anybody's brought that argument forth. Yes, the developer has made adjustments. However, I and my husband cannot support this when it still includes multifamily development rather than single-family homes. And reasons not to allow this, the reasons for not doing the rezoning, I believe include pedestrian safety, bike safety, vehicle safety, community diversity, maintaining property values, and certainly preserving the park. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hello, I'm Cheryl LaRose, and I live at 4909 Jeffers Road. And on the changeover from the last council meeting they had on the development for the R1 and R2, initially it was 55 lots. And apparently it's grown to, because of more property purchase, that it's 67 now. Is that correct? Okay. And in that respect, there's still going to be, I think, 2 roads going into that development from Jeffers Road. 2 roads at this time.
There's one.
Just one? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, I really feel that the neighborhood and the people surrounding it would really like to see just single dwelling units in that area, because of, until the improvements of Jeffers Road, and we're talking in the development, they want to put a bike trail in there. That's all fine and dandy, but I think if we need a bike path, I think we should have it on Jeffers Road going out to the ballpark, and for kids to access safely down the road, let alone we have a lot of people that can't even walk or jog or ride a bike down Jeffers at this time. But overall, that's a lot of homes, 67 homes in that amount of a parcel there, in excess of going in and out of there to Jeffers Road. And in the two twin homes, there would be at least 2 vehicles per home. So you take that times 67, that's 134 vehicles in just that small amount of area. So I think R1 would be an A-OK way to go for the future of the west side of Eau Claire. These are all going to be prominent homeowners, and they will love their property and take care of it. And like Shorewood Heights, which they have at this time. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Bill Nimitz. I live at 5451 Benjamin Street. I've lived in the city of Eau Claire for 38 years. I retired after working for the city of Eau Claire for 27 years. I started out working in the Public Works Department, and I worked in the Planning and Development Department before I retired. My neighbors and I are very concerned with the lack of single-family homes and the abundance of multi-family homes in this area. Let's see, get this on here right? Yep. Okay. When we look at this area, there's still a lot of undeveloped land that is just ripe for the development of multi-family homes. A lot more, let's see, future development of single-family homes in this area looks very limited with all the development of multifamily homes. We have multifamily homes here, of course here. If you drive through the area, it's kind of overwhelming. And we have single-family homes here, of course, and of course here. Now the areas that, of course, that are undeveloped are, well, Aspen Heights here. It's got a number of homes, multifamily homes. Right here could be easily developed multifamily, and you know that as soon as they get duplexes in, as soon as they get duplexes in here, it's obvious that there's not going to be any more single-family homes here going in. That's what we're concerned about, is a lack of single-family homes in our area. We are asking tonight is to vote to keep the shaded area zoned R1 as sewer and water. The reasons are, one, there's a lack of single-family homes for families to buy and also rent. Keep in mind that renters also live in single-family homes. As I went through gathering petitions, signatures on petitions, there are a number of renters living in these single-family homes also. Reason number two, there's a great potential for many multifamily homes to be built in the undeveloped area, as I said, number two. Number three, the reason, give the people more choices and opportunity to live and raise their families where they wish in this area. If you give people choices, single families, right now we don't have very many choices for single families, homes in that area. Number four, keep in mind that when the developer is long gone, the people that live in this area will have to live with what is decided on. Thank you.
Before you go, are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see anything, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Becky Woods. I live at the corner of Benjamin Street and Shorewood Heights Parkway. I stand before you tonight to share my concerns about the rezoning of R1A to R1P and R2P. I am here to say that I oppose the addition of an increased number of single-family homes and multiple twin homes near the Shorewood Heights neighborhood, and I adamantly oppose the connection of our neighborhood to the proposed housing construction by an access road. Let me tell you why. I live at the corner of Shorewood Heights Parkway and Benjamin Street, and I am one of the residents who will be directly affected by the changes that the new housing development and/or access road will bring in several ways. I speak for all of us living along Shorewood Heights Parkway when I say I believe our livelihood will be directly impacted by the increased vehicle and foot traffic, as an additional population will be passing by our houses if an access road is allowed to connect the new construction to Shorewood Heights. I believe this to be true because just since the twin homes have been built east of Jeffers Road, there's already additional foot traffic of strangers as they walk for exercise or with their dogs through our park-like neighborhood of manicured lawns and flowered borders in the warmer months. In the colder months, the near meticulously clean sidewalks and decorated homes also offer a safe, aesthetic neighborhood to walk through. Currently, there is no through traffic in our neighborhood. Those who do drive through have a purpose. They live here or are visiting friends and family, or perhaps are delivering the mail or a package and occasionally a pizza. It is not a thoroughfare to get somewhere else. Our one-way in and one-way out street lends itself to seclusion, an environment we all embrace. The increased vehicle traffic from the proposed access road will pass right by my house every day and night, increasing the noise level and reducing the privacy that each of us who lives on Shorewood Heights Parkway are currently afforded. I believe it's probable that many of the multiple residents of the new development will use Shorewood Heights Parkway and then West Shorewood Drive to exit their own neighborhood for their work commute or shopping trips when their own neighborhood becomes congested, or if they decide to go to the ball fields. It's also feasible that they will choose the Shorewood Heights Parkway route, as residents will find it increasingly difficult to pull onto Jeffers Road from their own street due to actual or predictable excess cross-traffic at certain times of the day. On quiet days, I can hear some traffic on 312 North Crossing. A person can imagine how the addition of numerous single-family and multiple twin homes will affect our quiet neighborhood. There will be more lawnmowers and leaf blowers, more dogs barking, more cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Our tranquil, secluded neighborhood will be compromised and forever changed. I was influenced by several factors when I purchased my home in Shorewood Heights nearly 7 years ago. It was then a new home in a small, slowly growing neighborhood that was close to my workplace with limited traffic, and it had a countryside appeal. Through the years, all the empty lots in the neighborhood have been developed, and now it's obvious we all do our part to both preserve and increase home values by maintaining the quiet family home environment. One only needs to pass through the neighborhood once to get a sense of seclusion and privacy. Although our neighborhood is within the city limits, I believe we have the best of both worlds. Just minutes away from shopping at a busy unseen highway, but with limited exposure and access by the general city population. They say money can't buy happiness, but I believe the residents of the Shorewood Heights neighborhood have come close to it. The serenity that our isolation affords us is priceless. We've all invested in well-built, quality homes that we've all worked hard to obtain and work hard to maintain for aesthetic value and monetary gain. Anyone who lives here, visits someone, or strolls the sidewalks will tell you it's a beautiful neighborhood. As leaders of the city of Eau Claire, you can help us preserve that environment. Please consider my concerns and the opinions of the residents of the Shorewood Heights neighborhood as you make your decision whether to allow the construction of numerous single-family and multiple-family twin homes within earshot of our neighborhood. I also ask you to carefully consider how your decision to grant an access road that connects our neighborhood to the new development will especially impact the residents who live along Shorewood Heights Parkway. If an access road is permitted, you'll be granting unlimited access to the little community we've worked hard to build, preserve, and appreciate for the privacy it affords us. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak for myself and on behalf of my friends and neighbors to oppose the construction of numerous single-family and multiple-family twin homes and the addition of an access road. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone else have anything new to say?
Good evening, Cody Phillipsack, 9305 Murphy Lane, Eau Claire, and I am the developer on the project, proposed developer. I just wanted to speak last so I could talk to the items that came up, and I think everyone here will agree we need housing in Eau Claire. There is a shortage of housing, and I would make this whole thing single family if we could warrant it, but it's the economics of it, and I like to have a choice. I mean, switching, I wasn't a huge fan, and I'm still a little leery about switching to single families on the north side. But if anyone has been in our development in Altoona where we did a mixture of the smaller single families and twin homes, it worked very well, and I think it can here because there are some very nice areas in this development. You have the spots over here, some spots down here that are very nice, but you also have power lines coming down this side that are very nerve-wracking. You have the greenhouses on this side. You have older houses here and very high-density multifamily. What we run into, development costs have gotten so expensive that it costs around $500 a foot with land and everything, not even including holding costs. So $500 a foot ends up being about $50,000 a lot. I don't think there's any way we could sell single-family lots in here for $50,000. But we can do twin homes and sell them as packages, and it's selling them, not renting them, selling them. And we can do smaller single families on condensed lots, which are very popular right now, and sell those and make it work. So that is what we're looking at. That's what we're coming. I think we made really good changes to the plan, and I think with the neighborhood to the north in mind, and I think we have a really good plan. You know, I've been through a lot of these meetings, and I have never been to one that didn't have opposition, no matter where it was and what it was. And I understand the 90 petitions, but Eau Claire's a city of 70,000 people, and a lot of people will be employed in this, and there'll be a lot more than 70 people that will directly benefit. The other thing I would say is when Shorewood, and I remember when Shorewood was developed, all the neighbors directly to the east of Shorewood all complained about that too. I mean, it's progress. I think this is a good fit. It's a good mix from single families to twin homes, owner-occupied twin homes, instead of the high-density multifamily that you see getting developed all over the city, because that's what people have to do in order for it to be profitable. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the speaker? Commissioner Radabal.
A couple of questions. In Altoona, I'm familiar with them. Large percentage of owner occupant
Yes.
for the twin homes?
Almost all.
Almost all. And then typical occupant, do you get families in that, retired?
There's
Empty nesters?
the three biggest segments, for sure, empty nesters, baby boomers are the biggest ones. A lot of, all through the age of, I would say anywhere from, and you're never supposed to say what people's age are, but 40 some on up. That's probably the biggest one. Young professionals, either singles or couples, are buying these a lot more, especially coming in from out of areas. And as they grow in popularity, which right now, I mean, it's crazy. Our company gets 2 calls a week on where the twin homes are. And then lastly, divorcees. A lot of divorcees are buying these.
Very good. Any other questions for the speaker? I don't see anything right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Each person only gets one chance to speak. Is there anyone else who'd like to say anything before I close the public hearing? Seeing done, I will close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion. Commissioner Peterson.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Peterson.
I'm going to be voting in favor of this. I think the developer has done a good job of buffering the Shorewood Heights roadway with putting the R1 on the north and the R2 on the south. The argument that everyone's going to come up and use West Shorewood Drive to access Jeffers Road, right now there's 100 lots that access that. There's 67 lots that are going to access this new access. There's no way I would go backwards to use something that's 50% bigger. And I just logically can't see people from the new development going through the Shorewood Heights neighborhood to access Jeffers Road to the north.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. I'm going to vote in favor of this as well. I think that, I think that from the Plan Commission perspective, the rezoning meets the standards and requirements that we have before us. That second access road has been planned for a long time, and that whether this development happens or some other development happens, that road is going to go through there. I appreciate the interest in being an isolated neighborhood, but the policies and the plans of the city do not support that kind of isolation. And so for that and the reasons I've stated, I'll be voting in favor.
Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Klinkhammer.
Thank you. I think that I just want to reiterate the points that have been made already. Before Shorewood area was ever developed, that road was platted, expected to be in there. So it will continue to be an issue regardless of how this property develops. It will connect. It's good for connectivity for all the things that were mentioned, bicyclists and pedestrians, but especially services, and emergency services in particular. And I agree also with the points that have been made about the adjustments that have made to this proposed development in terms of putting in the single-family home component in the northern area of it. We don't have that much space. We got to use the land that we have available within the city to full effect. And I don't think that there's really any guarantee when we buy a home that things, especially in an area that isn't fully developed, that street arrangements and other components of that area are not going to change over time. So it's a good project. I think it deserves. The other point that I wanted to mention was that a point that was made. I mean, when we make decisions, it affects the entire city, and I think that not that everybody in the city is going to drive on these streets, but it just makes sense to have this kind of transition in that property.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? See none, then I will speak. I think this is a great plan. I love the traffic calming with the single family, the way it curves around. That will really slow traffic down. It will also discourage people from cutting through there because it's not a straightaway. I think one of the things that the Planning Commission is charged with is to make sure that the city grows in a very orderly fashion. And part of the way we grow in an orderly fashion is you take the highest density housing and you step it down to a lower density housing, and then you step it down to single family, and that preserves property values all across the way. The other thing I wanted to say is I have several friends that live in the twin homes that are in Altoona that Cody referenced, and most of them are single adult women. Almost all of them are owner-occupied. For people who are younger families or couples, it is a great way for them to be able to buy something that is new construction, but where they can't afford a full house. And this is a great compromise. It gives them a chance to own something that's brand new. And those neighborhoods are very lovingly taken care of. So I think this is a good proposal, and I will be supporting it. Are there any other comments? All right, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is a public hearing for recommendation R2, I1, and I2 to P, Sundet Park.
I'd just like to say one thing to the council.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this,
You can go. It's time for you to retire. Yeah, I'm going to be retiring, but you.
Good. Can I have the money you took on this table? Tell you what, we the people.
Sir?
We the people.
I mean,
We the people don't
let's
bring
call the
dollars
cops.
out there should be able to vote on this also.
We the people.
We live out there and we pay city taxes, so where's our vote? I know, I'm leaving, thank you. Yeah.
Sir?
Sure, I want to bring my jacket, please.
Yeah.
Call the law, I'd like to go to jail. We the people.
should we start over? Or Pat, can you move forward?
I'm here to talk about dogs tonight. The city of Eau Claire is initiating a rezoning of city-owned property, Sundet Playground, that's located southeast of.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
They can't hear. See if your speaker works now. Yeah, okay.
Okay. The city is in the process of requesting rezoning of some property related to Sundet Park in order to allow a dog park. This is the location of the proposed zoning here. This is Robin Road and Sundet Road located here. The proposed zoning would change. We have R2 zoning here, I1 zoning here, and then I2 zoning here. This would all be zoned to public to allow for the dog park. Accompanying with that is a site plan that would incorporate the total area that would be rezoned to public, and that would be for the dog park, for the existing neighborhood park that's there, and then also for the storm detention area that's in that location there. The city approved the neighborhood park back in 2001 with the rezoning of this small parcel here, and then a conditional use permit here, and that's the location where the neighborhood park is. So now what we're here tonight for is basically to look at the expansion of that neighborhood park to include the dog park. This is an aerial of the vicinity, with this being Sundet Road here, Robin Road, the existing neighborhood park located right here. The storm detention area is located in this area here. So we have some residential located to the east, to the northeast, residential to the west, industrial to the south, and some vacant up to the north here. This is a layout of the park itself. Again, this would be Sundet Road to the top, Robin Road located here. The dog park itself would consist of about a little over 9 acres, and it would be divided into 2 areas, one for larger dogs, one for smaller dogs. The larger dogs would be located within this area that's about 8 acres in size. Smaller dogs would be located in this area that's about 1 acre in size. The overall area would be fenced with a 6-foot chain link fence. And then this area here would be set aside for pet watering, for water facilities, and then basically a transition area for the dogs to get in or out of the 2 different areas here. As I mentioned before, the city currently has a stormwater detention area in this area here, and the city engineering department has talked with the DNR to make sure that that's acceptable to have a dog park within that, and they have indicated that that is okay, that is not a problem. As part of the development, we also would be looking at, this is the existing parking lot for the neighborhood park. We would be expanding that. There's an existing 8 stalls that are located there right now. We'd be adding an additional 11 stalls to the south end, and then providing, there is sidewalk along the existing, we'd be extending that sidewalk in this area here, and then providing a new curb cut located here. We'd be recommending that the existing south curb cut right here, that would be eliminated, so you'd have one at the north and one at the south here. There is lighting for the existing parking lot here with the shielded lighting. We're recommending that same style of lighting be extended down into this area here. And then there are some trees along the boulevard here along Robin Road, but it's kind of spotty in terms of, this is the existing parking lot right here. There's a couple trees located right here, and then one right here. What we're recommending is, with a review from the city forester, that additional tree plantings be added along the boulevard, along Robin Road, along the park area there. The Parks Division held a neighborhood informational meeting back in December, and they got fairly positive comments from the neighborhood. One of the comments that was suggested is that we are planning a perimeter trail along both of the areas here. In the plan here, we show that as a wood chip trail, but the recommendations from a lot of the dog owners is that we go with a different surface than a wood chip trail, so more like probably a bituminous, not bituminous, but more like a
crushed gravel?
Crushed gravel type of a trail.
Okay.
So that's probably the one change that you would see here from the plan. The Waterways and Parks Commission reviewed this a couple weeks ago, and they recommended approval. Staff recommends approval also, condition that we would remove this this curb cut here to allow just the one at the north and one at the south, that we provide additional street trees along Robin Road as recommended by the city forester, and that this new portion of the parking lot be lighted with fixtures similar to what's in the existing parking lot. Jeff Pippinger is here from our Community Services and Parks Division if you have any specific questions in the operation of the park.
Okay. Are there any questions for Pat? Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. Pat, what is that building at the bottom of the screen there?
This right here?
Mm-hmm.
This is an industrial building here. I don't know the name of the building, but this, if I go back to the, this is part of the Chippewa Valley Industrial Park. So this is an industrial building located right here.
Yeah, on Hogarth. Are there any questions? Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Pippinger, did you want to come forward and add your 2 cents worth?
Pat did such a great job there. Good evening. Just to add is that there has been several requests for the city of Eau Claire to design and construct a new off-leash dog park on the north side to complement the dog park that we have on the south side. And we feel that this does. It's the size, the amount of parking that we have there all are very similar to what we have on the south side. This project was presented as part of the 2018 to 2022 capital improvement project, and we feel that it's going to have a positive reflection for the neighborhood. One of the biggest parts that we wanted to maintain here too is this is a neighborhood park. We wanted to maintain that atmosphere, that it would stay a neighborhood park. We feel that the dog park will complement that.
Commissioner Klinkhammer.
It's my understanding that the fees collected at our dog parks are paying for the regular maintenance and upkeep on the dog parks. Is that still correct?
That's correct. In fact, the fees from the dog users is actually, it's paying for this project.
Right, that's what I thought. Thank you. This would be a good thing. Won't be so busy on my street then.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Pippinger? I have 2, if no one else has anything else. How many acres is this total?
This will be a total of 9.2. The large
Okay.
dog park area is 8.2 with a small dog park of 1 acre.
Okay, and how big is the dog park on the south side? How many acres?
Same size.
Same size?
It's actually 8 acres on the large dog park and 1 acre on
Okay.
the small park.
And how much parking does the south side dog park have?
They have 22 stalls.
Okay.
This will end up having 19 stalls with a handicap.
Okay, so very comparable.
Very comparable.
Okay, now we need a kitty park. I'm a cat person. Are there any other questions? I don't see any, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue?
Good evening. My name is Lee Hennick. I live at 3150 Runway Avenue. I'm not opposed to the dog park. Dog parks are cool. What I am opposed to, what I'm concerned about, is Mr. Pippinger, the gentleman before him, talked about having a meeting. I retired from government service in the Army a year and a half ago, and I've kind of tried to help the neighborhood out, form an association, and try to do some corrective actions. And the neighborhood is 25% Hmong, about 10 to 15% African American, about 10% older, and the rest single moms. There's a lot of disadvantaged people in the neighborhood that don't have a voice and really don't know how to speak up. So I'm trying to help out as much as I can. One of the things I've identified some problems And one of the problems identified was a water fountain in Sundet Park that has been broken for over a year. I've talked to 3 department heads. I've talked to Mr. Peters. I've talked to Mr. Pippinger's department 3 times, and they keep telling me they're going to fix it, and they don't. You're going to provide water for dogs. The neighborhood I am in has over 50 kids in just a 3-block area. I think kids deserve water too. And there's a lot of excuses. We can't find the right pipe size. I've heard that twice. I know, being in maintenance my career, that I can get just about anything next to air. And this sleight of hand stuff concerns me. Your advertisement alone talks about improvements to the park for the kids. And I didn't hear one manager talk about an improvement to the kids' park at all. It appears to the residents, especially the Hmong residents, and by the way, Najong Peng Yu, I speak a little Hmong. My first service was flying supplies into Hmong, and I have a high respect for them. I'm concerned that there's a lot of forgotten people in the neighborhood, and this dog park is just going to make it more forgotten. You talked about the other dog park having 22 stalls for about the same size, and this having 19. Well, you know, the six stalls or 8 stalls that are there are servicing the park, and they're half full most of the time. Well, now you're having less parking stalls than the other park, and a park. I think, again, the neighborhood gets slighted. It appears to a lot of residents in the neighborhood that nobody pays attention to us, that we are forgotten. This recent snow we had, these plows didn't get to us till 5 o'clock. Sundet was plowed, Robin Road was plowed, a big road next to us was plowed 3 times. Hogarth was plowed, and there's hardly any people there. It's an appearance that because there's a high minority, a lot of Hmongs and some African Americans and some Spanish, that we're kind of not being taken care of. And again, tonight, did any of you hear of any of the improvements they're going to make at the park? Even though your form says that they're going to talk about the improvements to the park. This is not about taking the park away. This is about doing what you say you're going to do. And the last thing I'd like to say, well, maybe not the last, they talked about having a meeting that they had in December. This meeting that Mr. Pippinger's department and 2 other departments said that they were going to send letters out to each individual household, and I asked them to put it in Hmong, and they agreed to, because there's a large Hmong population. No letters were sent to my house or any other house that I've recently surveyed, and there was a public notice that most of us missed, and they promised to put it in the fall where people could get out, and they would put it in Sundet Park in the meeting room. It didn't happen until December. Not a lot of people showed up. The park is not a bad thing. I just think you don't ignore the children's park too. And ask yourselves, what excuse would you have if they didn't supply water to your local parks for a year and it's been brought to their attention? I'd like you to at least hold somebody accountable for something and do what they say they're going to do, not just ignore people. Thank you.
Before you go, let me see if there's any questions. Are there any questions for the speaker? I don't see any. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Hi, I'm Michelle Hennick. I live at 3150 Runway also, and I've lived there for about 10 years. And I've had my teenage son there, and I've had when I moved there, and brought up my grandsons. Well, they don't live near us anymore; they moved away. But they did for a good 7 years of their life, and we use the park all the time. And when I first got there, it's a small park, and the water wasn't running, and I called the city, and they said, oh yeah, and they came right over and they turned it on. And I think it's kept up, it's kept clean and everything. There was some the water was on for a long time, and then there was some vandalism or something, you know, there, once in a while, kids get up there and they get a little whatever, you know, but, so they turned it off or whatever, and I haven't, for myself, I haven't been up there for a while, just as I drive by. By that picture there, I'm wondering, I mean, they are taking, it looks like they're taking a big part of the park, and especially where that opening is, so the people are gonna have to go from the parking lot here, and then go right through the park. Where it is right here is, this is a building here, it's a very small building, it's locked up all the time, there's no bathrooms. It would be really nice if we had some bathrooms there, you know, someplace. There's also, there's not even a picnic table. There's a bench, there's one bench, and if you get it, you get it, you know. So it would be nice, and there's a lot of kids, and the parents go there. That neighborhood does have a lot of kids, and they love the park. They play basketball thing is right here, and they're out there playing basketball all the time. It's wonderful to go past that park and see that it's well used. I thought that maybe they would expand it a little bit more, would be nice, you know. The dog park is a nice idea. I've used dog parks and that, but from what I see from this picture, it looks like it's going to be, they're going to be going right through the kids. This part here is where the playground, it's a small playground, and then over here is this part over here, that's where the basketball is. But they're going to be going right through the kids, and like I said, it's small. If they could make it any bigger, that would be great, or I don't know if you could move this someplace where they wouldn't have to go right through the kids playing in the park, because you're going to have a lot of action there. You're going to have, I mean, there's a lot of kids there already, and now you're going to have dogs and people walking through there. It's really going to be tight. So I was thinking maybe you were going to put the parking lot over there or something like that and have people coming off that street, you know, because that way the park wouldn't be. Then again, too, you know, when are the kids going to stay out of the dog park? You know, is there going to be someone there watching them that the kids, or are they going to slip in there, you know, or a dog gets off and there are a bunch of kids there? I mean, a park and a dog park are great, but when you kind of put them together, things could happen, you know. So I have some concerns about it. I have walked my own dogs there all these years. I've walked my dog. Well, actually, I quit maybe about 4 years ago. It seems like there was a lot of ticks and stuff. Every time we went out, we got full of ticks and stuff. So, but before that, it was fine. I think this stuff grew up or something like that. So this over here is a wetland area, and a lot of the deer. There's a lot of deer that bed down over there, and it's well used by wildlife too. So it's a very nice piece of property over here. There's a lot of wildlife too. So, you know, what you're taking away, you're taking away some wildlife and the area. I guess it's going to cause a lot more traffic. And Robin Road does get going. This whole area does get going during traffic times, and there's a lot of people on Runway and on Sundet. They're going to work, and then back here are some big neighborhoods too. So that's going to put a lot more traffic. So, you know, with the dog park idea, I'm not sure the design. I'm looking at, I would maybe put the entrance maybe over there or something. You can maybe put some parking over there. I don't know about money or anything. The park couldn't use, like I said, it could use some shelter when it rains. There's no shelter there for people to go in because that building that's there is closed. It's locked, and there's not even a bathroom for the kids to use. So it'd be nice to have a bathroom. I suppose they'd put one with the dog park, but then is that for the kids to use too? Is that going to be inside the fence so the kids can't use it? Or, you know, we need a bathroom there. We need the water. We need some picnic tables, a couple of picnic tables for families to sit on. And with this, it's going to make the park even smaller. Now, a lot of the kids don't go too far back there. I'm not sure how far that goes back because there's a line. I don't know if it's back to here. Yeah, because there's it's where they cut the grass. You know, where kids, they don't go back there. Well, some younger kids do, but sometimes the kids will walk back there, but it's pretty kind of thorny and kind of like it's kind of buggy and stuff. But anyways, those are my concerns, is that people are going to be getting out of their car and they're going right through the middle of the, where all the little kids are playing in there, you know, and their parents and that. It's just going to be really congested. So, and also it might be better to park over here because Robin Road's a lot busier than Sundet. There's a lot of single-family homes over here, but a lot of those are, well, they're single too, but there are some that are, I think those are single, but there's a lot of, they're like row houses or that. So anyways, those are my concerns with
Very good, thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Commissioner Brenholdt.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's a question for you. I think you've raised some valid points, but Mr. Pippinger, Daryl, do I understand that that walkway that I see there, is that going to be the walkway to the entrance to the parks? And then the walkway to that small square?
Yeah, that will be the sidewalk.
That would be the sidewalk?
Going up. This is sidewalk coming through here, and then there'll be a sidewalk going into the leash transition area.
Okay, because, yeah, I've never seen a time when there hasn't been a dog, that there hasn't been a small child attracted to the dog, so I think there's a valid concern there. Any reasoning why the parking wasn't relocated to be more direct? I recognize the logistics, but to be more direct into the dog parks and maybe separated a little bit from where the kids are?
Well, basically, this is where the existing parking lot was.
Right.
And it would be more efficient for us to utilize where the parking lot is. The dog owners, again, we have the leash transition area. Up until that point, they're supposed to be on a leash.
Okay.
Before they get into this area.
Is there appropriate signage?
Yeah, we'll have signage in there.
Is there, with the Southside Dog Park, is there a public park that's adjacent to it, similar to what we have here?
No, I mean, not in, I mean, it is part of a park area, but we haven't established where a playground and that would be in that park yet.
And the whole other side is all the highway.
Okay.
It's the highway, and it's kind of tucked in the back there. And, yeah, it's more secluded than with this. This is kind of right in the middle of a lot of houses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Before you go, let's see if there's any questions. Commissioner Klinkhammer, did you want to say something?
I wanted to catch Mr. Pippinger, but I wanted to thank the speakers to bring these points forward. I do know that at the dog park on my neighborhood, that there is a porta potty in there with a structure around it. Was the intention to provide that kind of an amenity here at this park?
Yeah, we do have a shelter here that does have bathrooms. We don't have a furnace in this structure, so it could be utilized 3 season. It could be utilized for spring, summer, and fall, but in the winter time, we wouldn't have that. At that point, if it was needed, and we talked to the group that did come to our open house on this, and they said if we needed to, we could put a porta potty in this area.
With that being said, that is always closed though. It's locked all the time, unless, in order to get inside that building to use the bathroom, we have to rent it out.
That's correct. I mean, it
So I don't know
is.
if we could take that building and maybe open it up somehow, or where it's more open, or take the doors out. I don't know what the answer is, but there's no shelter there even for the sun, if you're out there with your kids, there's no shelter to go.
I think some of the questions that we're kind of addressing are actually better served by Parks and Waterways than what we're doing here, but I think they're valid concerns. Picnic benches, couple of benches for people. I think bathrooms are important. Unfortunately, they have a tendency to attract a lot of vandalism in whatever park it is, and I know that's always a concern.
Well, there with the dog park then too, you've got more people there to kind of eye that up instead of, that may help it be safe, I don't know.
Thank you. Commissioner Klinkhammer, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, if it's under the purview of waterways and parks, I guess I certainly don't want to step on anybody's toes. But I think a year-round, I see how many people use our dog park a block away from the house. I mean, that is busy 24/7 almost. I mean, there are people out there, unless it's an absolute downpour or bitter, there are people using that facility. And I think a restroom or porta potty that's usable year-round is going to be a necessity. And if we're going to provide water for dogs, I think we should have water for a kid using the park.
Well, and we agree, and just to put the record straight, is that we've had 3 drinking fountains that we've had out there that have been destroyed because of vandalism. The last one, we beefed up ourselves, and it was destroyed. So we're trying to, I mean, we can't buy something on the market that will withhold the vandalism we have, so we had to do it ourselves, and it ended up getting destroyed too. So we're at a little bit of a loss ourselves. Our hope with the dog park being in place, and more people at the facility, that we'll be able to keep a drinking fountain for the kids.
It's true, the drinking fountain that they have now is right behind the building.
It's right here.
Yeah, so every once in a while,
Yeah.
people come, the kids, you know, it just gets.
Can you move a little closer to the mic?
Sorry. The people, the drinking fountain is right behind the building, so for the most part, you know, it's fine, but once in a while you get a couple kids that are gonna vandalize it or that, and so, but now with that, if you have that sidewalk going, that would give maybe some protection from people going back and forth, but before, you know, if they would, I was gonna suggest that they put the drinking fountain on the side of the building where the people on the streets could see the kids, because if someone sees the kids out there fooling around, someone's gonna stop and say something. But when it's behind the building, you know, you can't see really what they're doing. So I'm just thinking if they move that to more of a, but now if the dog park would go through and there are people walking, well, you might still have the same problem though with the drinking fountain being directly behind the building. It might be to position it maybe to the other side of the building or something, where maybe by the parking lot over that, you know, on that side of the building instead of on that other corner. But they might have it over there for the basketball guys or something.
So, thank you. I don't think we'll be able to solve all of the issues tonight, but it's good to hear the problems. Very good, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? This is a public hearing. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval.
We have a second? Any discussion?
I just
Commissioner
wanted-
Brendholt was first.
Oh.
I'm gonna support this, but I do think both the speakers brought up some very valid points, and I hope they were heard and that we have some things that are taken into account. I was vacillating back and forth on the parking, but the more I think about where we've got the parking now is going to create more traffic, which may cut down on the vandalism of the water fountains, and as long as we've got a safe passageway of the dogs, I'll support this.
Commissioner Klinkhammer?
I was just going to thank them for their remarks as well, and I guess I just want to add that I wouldn't view the needs of the people that use this park from any other neighborhood in our community and who uses those facilities. So if we have overlooked something, it's unfortunate, but that's all there is.
Any other? Commissioner Peterson?
I'm going to vote in favor of this also, but can we provide a synopsis of the discussion by the people that did their comments to the Waterway and Parks Commission? So I know Mr. Pippinger will probably take it to them too, but this way they can hear what people have said tonight.
That's a good idea. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, for approval, site plan for a women's health and children's clinic at 3213 Stein Boulevard.
This is the property at Stein and MacArthur, no, Hamilton, very close here. It will remove this existing building, and it will remove this wing off of this existing building. So its location is in here. You can see the existing offices surrounding it. This is then the site plan for the project showing the new building at that location. The wings going off of this building, so this building still remains. And also in your packet are the building elevations for the project. The new clinic's 14,073 square foot, and it replaces a current facility and then removes again that wing from the building next door. It has a parking requirement of 101 stalls. They're showing 105 stalls on their site plan. They're showing an 8-stall bike rack. The site access will remain the same. They have two curb cuts heading out to Stein, one coming down to Hamilton. I got it right that time. Their sidewalks they are adding are shown on the site plan. They are connecting to the existing sidewalk for the building to the west. Exterior lighting is noted on the site plan, and it will need to be in compliance with city standards. They're providing a 6-foot-high dumpster enclosure. They are providing landscaping with foundation plantings around the addition, parking lot shade trees. There is a master sign plan for this multiple office building currently in place, and they can reface that existing sign or put up other signs with sign permits. We review site grading, drainage, utilities, traffic, and transit, also within our report. We provide a draft letter that recommends approval with the condition we need city engineer's approval of drainage. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Daryl? I don't see anything right now. Is the applicant here?
Hi, Rob Majeski, 415 Roosevelt Avenue.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I guess, just the demolition of the two existing buildings. Architecturally, we're matching the building that's close by to the east, the Western Wisconsin Urology Clinic, and again, tying in some of the existing parking. So just redeveloping the neighborhood slowly over time. The existing uses around the building are also dental and all medical related, so, it fits right in. The building that we are tearing down, those doctors will be relocating, and this building is a replacement for where they're in right now.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any, thank you.
Thanks.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'd be looking for a motion.
I move approval with recommendations.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda for discussion and direction, we have a noise ordinance.
Good evening, Plan Commission. This is a project that was listed in the health chapter of the comprehensive plan, so we're bringing it before you to get your direction if you would like to have staff do more research on the issue. Noise ordinances usually in cities relate to land uses from a planning and zoning point of view, and so we would look at different codes that cities are doing in terms of research for what would fit for Eau Claire. So the things we'd look at different land use classifications, zoning classifications. We'd look at mitigation features such as landscaping, how that could actually buffer noises. We'd look at enforcement measures, all those kind of things that would make up a new code. We'd bring that research before you so that we get more direction about options. Some of these codes can be quite complex. That would also integrate the health department. The health department right now covers the noise ordinances in Chapter 9, and we gave you those ordinances as part of the packet here. And so that lightly touches on land uses and operations. And so there is a mechanism already there to deal with noise ordinances, and so it hasn't been a hot button issue to bring before you. Talking with the health department, there are a few minimal complaints that come up. Rarely they have to use a noise meter to actually go to the property and to find out what's happening in terms of if they're actually in violation, but they don't really have codified any standards for those noise violations, and so what they use is best practices by the industry standards, and that was listed there. So those would be provisions that we try to benchmark land uses by in doing our research. So that's primarily what we would bring back before you if you would direct staff to do this research with the intent of a possible ordinance that would go to then public hearing on. Any questions related to just the basic information that we provide in the memo?
Commissioner Brentholt?
Ned, we don't have any type of ordinance or anything that says when you can, how early in the morning you can fire up your snow blower or your lawnmower, not that we worry about that right now.
Not really. I mean, the only thing that we have is actually a policy that is, this would be an opportunity to graft into an ordinance, but the policy listed here in your memo is actually 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and it primarily deals with construction.
Okay.
So that is loosely used when there's a kind of a time of day violation issue is that policy. And so this would be a way to actually codify that policy that we've been using for over 10 years.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Thank you. Could this or would this relate to train whistles?
The quiet zone, I believe the engineering department is still working on that, but with the quiet zone, it's a federally mandated program that you would actually have to, the city at cost would have to pay for mitigation features, safety improvements, median, crossing arms, and so that would be usually an expense at the city in order to be able to create a quiet zone. So there might be some provisions that we could look at with, for example, if there was a subdivision next to a railroad track where there could be some mitigation features where you could do some berming or some trees to kind of muffle some of that sound. But again, a train track is quite loud and there's always vibrations that you can't really overcome. So when we look at a possible ordinance, we could consider how to apply those standards on different projects, if it's a site plan, if it's a subdivision, and how we could add that as a condition of approval if that was a concern.
Could I ask one more?
Yes, you can.
So there'd be sort of two parts to this. One is how loud is too loud and under what conditions, and then how to mitigate that noise. So we would just say train whistles are too loud, period. We wouldn't even have to go into that, but we'd be looking at what to do about it.
And Commissioner Peterson might have a little bit better inclination on this, but the train whistles by Federal Railroad Administration, they are allowed to blow those horns for safety's sake, and so required. So the only way that you can get a train quiet zone is if you amp up the infrastructure to make sure that there's safety. So we wouldn't be able to regulate that.
Are there any other comments?
A couple of examples that might help. I know many years ago, Max Phillips, which has a different name now, came in for a conditional use permit for a plan commission approval for a big crushing machine. And when they first went out there the first few months, they were crushing some cars that blew up, and the neighbors would call in about the explosion. And we eventually found a way by working with that business how to solve that problem. But there was a condition on there about the noise needed to be mitigated, but it never defined, well, what is the noise, and where do you measure that from or anything like that. And that's what these types of codes can get into. The other example I can think of is Nestle's, their plant on Truax, when they first remodeled and expanded that many years ago. They had problems with some of their blowers up on the top, and the neighbors complained. And again, we worked with the business in terms of mitigating that, and they corrected that. But again, we never had any definitions in code as to, well, what is too loud or what needs to be mitigated. It just was kind of complaint-based is what it boiled down to, so.
In terms of what Darrell was talking about, this is an example from West Allis, and this shows you, that objective level of a decibel reading at You could do it at the property line, or in this case, it's 125 feet back from the property. So we would look at those kind of things in terms of what would be best fit for Eau Claire, but at a decibel level and at time of day, whether it's evening or during normal business hours.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, you're going to be looking at the codification then of making some changes in here with regard to noise.
Yeah, we would bring back research and some examples for you, and then get your direction on what kind of options.
Yep. Does this end at 956080? Or
Yeah, that's pretty much all that we have right there.
Okay.
That I included in the memo. There's not a lot.
956090 does not apply to noise responsibility of owner occupant?
95.
The one on the bottom. 956090.
Are you talking about the memo or the ordinance?
The ordinance.
The ordinance, okay.
I'm just, it's a trick question.
I'm not seeing 06.
If that still applies to
Yeah.
noise, I'm wondering what the harassment of the police dogs is doing in there, so, in between.
Yeah.
Or does the noise stop at 956080? It's the top three.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing about noise that I would like to say is, the question I see most often asked on the advice site for Eau Claire on Facebook is, how late can people play music in their houses or in the parks and stuff like that? And I think it would be good to kind of have a guideline on that, because there are some mothers who would like all music to stop by 7 p.m. And that might not really be practical. 10 p.m., I actually kind of like what you've got, Ned, on the screen there in terms of how West Dallas does it, kind of a quiet time from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So, but that's just my 2 cents worth in there. Commissioner Mitchell?
Well, I believe in being proactive, but I'm not sure this is worth the effort. If we've had very few complaints, why bother? Don't you have more important things to do, is my question. And that's not rhetorical. I mean, that.
There's a lot of priorities, so we bring it to you because it is in the work program to see if this is of value to direct staff to work on.
Commissioner Klinkhammer, go ahead.
It's my turn?
Yes.
Thank you. Would this be kind of an overlay zoning over everything that would?
No, it's not a zone, it's just basically conditions. So we would apply this in a review of a project. It's not a zoning district.
Okay.
The zoning districts would be the R1, the C2, and so on. It would just apply to that particular zone.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of with Commissioner Mitchell on this. If we have the ordinances in place and we have been able to deal with noise issues as they've come up, you must have better things to do. You've got to.
Any other comments for Ned? Oh, Commissioner Brenholt.
Yep, I agree with both of you. At first blush, it seems like, boy, this would be a really good thing to have. And then I can see you coming back and we put a restriction. Let's take snow blowers, for instance, and say, gee, you can't fire up your snow blower until 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, you got people that have to go to work, so we're going to sit there and discuss that and debate that back and forth. And unless we're getting overwhelmed with complaints, it seems like what we've got in place will serve us for right now. My 2 cents.
Do you need any action from us, Ned?
Just consensus direction if we should do research or not.
Commissioner Klinkhammer.
I don't want to beat this to death, but is there something in the health chapter that says, by adopting the health chapter, have we done something with the comprehensive plan that says we got to do something
No.
to stay?
The policy just says consider, so this would be that you
Considering.
considered it at a plan commission meeting and decided
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I
So,
think we got direction.
well, you want to take a show of hands. How many people think he should pursue the noise ordinance? Oh, Commissioner Larson.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm sorry, your
It's
your cup
okay.
is covering your blue light.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for the work that you did. It's been considered.
All right.
Thank you.
I think unless we run into really big issues, I think maybe we don't need anything further at this time. All right, next item on our discussion agenda is requiring applicants to be present at planning commission meetings for their agenda item.
This item is placed on your agenda by request at a previous Plan Commission meeting. We did want you to know that we always recommend to an applicant that you should be at the meeting in case there's a question. And if you go to our procedure forms, which this is the one for zoning, and we also have for conditional use site plans and all that, you can go down at the bottom and it literally states, and is underlined, applicant is expected to attend the hearing and present his or her case to the City Plan Commission. So it is there. We do doubt that that can be codified and required. I expect that probably run into some legal problem. And we would note, and it was did occur at the previous Plan Commission meeting, Plan Commission always has the option to postpone. And the final thing I would note is that there are applicants that do call our office on occasion and state they can't meet the meeting. Please inform the Plan Commission, and they do agree with the conditions in the report, something like that. And we'll report that when that does occur. And with that, I answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Daryl? Commissioner Brenholm?
Well, seeing as how I'm the person that asked for this to be put on there, I'm glad to see that that's there. I guess I wish we would be diligent about a situation where an applicant does not show up for something where we're asking, where we're doing a rezoning, we're doing a site plan approval, and of considerable nature.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I think that deserves a postponement, and that's my 2 cents. I'd have hated to have not had the applicant here for a couple of the agenda items tonight.
Mhm.
And I think it would have been appropriate to postpone, so, anyway.
Okay.
That's me.
Is there anyone else who'd like to make comments? Terry? Commissioner Peterson? It's getting late.
There are times that you answer questions when the applicant isn't here, that you answer the questions in lieu of them, and I don't know if that's right either. You know, that you're supposed to be unbiased, and in 99.9% of the time you are, but I think if an applicant is really, unless there's some extenuating circumstances where they can't be here, I think they should be here too, because there are sometimes some questions that we would like to ask of them.
Yep.
If they aren't here,
Yep.
we just maybe throw those questions away where they really should be asked. So,
Yeah.
and I would think if I would have questions, as with Commissioner Brenholm, if he'd have questions, I would move to postpone it till the next meeting.
And
So-
again, we always inform them, you should be at the meeting, there could be questions.
Yeah.
And there have been situations, they have called and said, we can't make the meeting for whatever reason.
That
Please
happens.
apologize to the Plan Commission. And that's kind of what we've been doing for 30 years, so.
And if it's something where there aren't any pressing questions, from us or issues raised by anyone opposed to what's being proposed, then I can understand if there's extenuating circumstance where they can't be here.
Yeah.
Maybe we can overlook that, but if there's something we need more information, I would certainly behoove us to get all the facts in before we make our decision. And if that means postponing it till the next meeting, that's what we should be doing.
Yep.
Are there any other comments on this issue? I don't see any. Next item is code compliance items. Does anyone have anything? Commissioner Peterson?
I will not name the property, but I happened to, in my drive around town today, looking at some sites, there was a bike rack that was totally engrossed with snow. There was a parking lot where 4 or 5 parking spots were totally stacked up with snow. If we require so many parking spots and we require bike parking, should not those spots and bike parking be kept open year-round, especially in the campus area where there's more bikes used year-round than anywhere else? Is there any way we can follow up on that?
The bike rack, yes, if they were required as part of the site plan. That's always the issue. If they were not required as part of the site plan, and they're just bike racks that the applicant for property would put in, then we really won't have an authority to do it. The parking, yes, it is required parking, but if they have additional parking they put in, and they're just covered in snow, that's always the dilemma. Sorry. It was blue and now it's bright blue. It's getting late. If it's, then we can, but that's always the dilemma in making that determination, is to, well, is that required parking or just extra parking?
Oh,
But if there's specific properties that let us know, and we can contact property owners about the situation.
Case in point, the one we just approved, the medical clinic and children's clinic and women's health.
Okay.
They're required to have 105 parking spots. They're providing 105.
Yeah, they have 4 extra.
So if 4 of them get filled up with snow in the wintertime,
That's the problem.
they're home free. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And that
I don't
medical
keep track
clinic.
of these in my mind,
Yeah.
that they've got 4 extra.
And that medical clinic, just so you know, was all built prior to the bike rack requirements. So if they have a bike rack out there, they put it in on their own. And for us to go out and say, you got to get the snow out of there, I don't think we have the authority to do that. So,
But I just happened to notice that bike rack today was totally
Okay.
covered in snow. And there were 3 bikes sitting in there. You know, but it's a little difficult.
Funny. Anything else under code compliance? I have one small item.
yes.
Do you remember back in October, I talked about there was a property on Eddy Street,
Yeah.
and they had put a curb cut in, but there was no driveway where they were parking on the lawn?
Yes.
Now they're parking double, not like this, but side by side on the lawn, and so the problem has continued and has grown.
Okay. I'll tell our code enforcement officer.
Okay, thanks. Anything else on code compliance? Seeing none, any future agenda items? Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities puts out a newsletter, which I was reading today, and their legal office did an article about the state legislature having made some major changes in putting restrictions on conditional use permits. Are we aware of that? And is anybody?
I've seen draft legislation. Has that been approved at this time?
Well, that's what I understood in this, what I read today. I didn't exactly understand what the restrictions were, but I don't know if that's a future agenda item, but I just would, yes, I would just like to know if somebody's working on that.
I've seen draft legislation that's substantially more than that on all sorts of other items. Some that I think are smart moves, in my opinion, pertain to certified survey map and plating. And then, yes, the conditional use and others in terms of health department issues. So I'm not sure how to bring all that forward because of the amount of changes that are being proposed. And I'm not sure if it's all still being considered or is it actually been approved? That's the
I didn't mean for us to discuss the issue, but
be aware that
I'd just like to know if somebody's working on it. I guess I could call you.
Okay. If such a change were made and it affected our process and procedure, then yes, we should be working on it. And hopefully they'll make us aware of those types of changes. The Northern City Attorney's Office does make us aware of new legislation that affects city code, so.
Very good. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I say we are adjourned.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689. Or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.